Hi and welcome to Chandu.org. In this, one of the most playful and interesting lessons, let us explore Homer Simpson's favorite sayings as a Power BI visualization. I am super excited for this, so I'm recording this even though my kids are home and it's dinner prep time, so there's a lot of dinner cooking noise going on in the background. So if you hear some kids screaming in the background, uh, ignore it and focus on Homer. Um, so yeah, as you probably know, Homer has this saying "Tao," and he says this every time he bumps into a wall or does something stupid or gets hurt or realizes that he has been caught off guard. So I wanted to explore how many times does he say it in all of the Simpsons episodes, and that's what I have built. I've built a visualization. Now, naturally, just exploring DAO is not fun, so I have made this visualization so we could explore some of his most favorite sayings. For example, this is beer. How many times he said it? I think we heard it 513 times in all of the Simpsons episodes, and Homer said it 202 times. Uh, and if you say "ooh," uh, you, and it was a total of 286 times, and Homer said it 246. And Dow, obviously, despite its insane popularity, turns out it was only said 38 times in all, and Homer said it 13 times. But obviously, it is kind of famous, and some of the things like Duff and kill. I think sometimes Homer says this to his son playfully, or the names of the people, or donuts, one of Homer's favorite food. Now, if you're wondering how this is built, that's what I'm going to show you, how this is built from scratch um, in this video. So let's get it. The very first thing is we need to understand where we can get this data. Unfortunately, we don't need to go through each and every Homer Simpson script to gather all of this. That work has been already done. There is a website called Kaggle where you could browse and explore and download data sets for your business intelligence or data analytics learning and self experimentation. And there is this data set, The Simpsons by Data, published by William, and it's a curated data set of 27 seasons of Simpsons scripts, about 9 MB. You need to log in, you need to sign up to this website. It is free to download this. So I suggest that if you are a Simpsons fan, or if you are someone who would like to do a bit of text analysis, getting this data might be an interesting thing. And if you look at the data set itself, there are basically four CSV files. One tells us the characters in Simpsons, the other tells the episodes, and then the third one gives us the locations, and then final one is the script, where all the script lines are one line at a time, in one row at a time in the script file, and the script row tells us which character is saying that line at what location in which episode and what is the actual text. So our job is to load all these data sets into Power BI. Because this is hosted on an external website, it's best to download it and then link it up as a local CSV file. That's what I have done. And I'll just simply show you the process for bringing this data in a blank Power BI workbook, so we kind of understand how it works, and then we will jump into this file so I can show you how the visualization itself is built. Um, so I'm starting Power BI again, a blank one. It takes a while. And I think it's also because I'm recording, so there's a bit of lag here. I'm not really sure what those are. Alright, so let's bring this data. I have already downloaded this data set into a folder on my computer, mm, appropriately named as Simpsons. Those are the four CSV files. Obviously, the script lines one is the largest one with 34 megabytes of data. So I'm a little skeptical to share this Power BI workbook because it is already 20 megabytes, and it's probably going to clog up our server. But you can go ahead and download it and play with it. So let's just download the text CSV files from the Simpsons. We can't multi-select, we can't use folder option as well, because what happens with folder is it tries to combine all these 4 files into one query. So let's go ahead and bring them one at a time. I'll show you. For one file the process is same. You go and bring this, and that's the data. We will just quickly edit this to kind of understand what is in there. So this is the thing. What Power Query does is it looks at anything that looks like number and it applies typecasting to it. We don't need this, so I'm going to undo that step so that all the IDs will remain in the text format so that they can be linked. And then this is pretty much what it is. It's the actual raw text is the text that is part of the script, but what they have done is they have also provided us with the spoken words and then normalized text. So we will be using normalized text. What we will do is we will look into the normalized text through a DAX measure to find out if the word that we want has been said. Now we could do this analysis just for DAO, but I figured it might be interesting if we can actually do it for a bunch of words. So what are those bunch of words? Then this kind of depends on what you favor. What I did is I used the enter data feature to create a new table. This one is what I'm going to call as phrases, and these are all the phrases that I would like to explore. Obviously we'll start with DAW. Although Homer says DAW, it is like that, but in the normalized text it will be just DOH. And then let's put some of the character names to see how many times they have been called by others, um, and then some other words like I'm not really sure whether in normalized text woohoo appears as 2 words or 1 word, but hey, we could just use one of them, and then that's the phrase, right? So that's the title of the call. So using create table you could create this kind of ad hoc data that you can then use to connect with other tables and do some interesting analysis. So let's just stick to 11 phrases here, and this is our script line. So I'm going to call this query as script. Let's just bring the other files as well. We'll bring characters, and let's bring episodes, and location. So all the 4 data sets are now part of our Power Query model. We're going to quickly rename these things. So with the shorter name, it will be easier when we are building any measures or anything like that. We will also remove this change type thing that Power Query obsessively adds, and I'll go to the script once, and then I think we can just leave that there. Let's go to the episodes. It has something interesting. It has got the US views in millions, and then this, and then IMDb rating and IMDb votes. These are actually numeric fields, so I'm going to change the type to I think it's best to change these two to number, whole number, and those two to decimal number. This way when we are building any measures, within Power Pivot, it wouldn't complain. Okay, now that all of these are here, let's close and apply. This will, at this stage, so far Power Query hasn't loaded the data, but now Power Query is actually loading this data into the memory by actually reading the CSV file. So this is where it kind of takes a few minutes, not minutes, but maybe good part of 15-20 seconds. That's the largest file, the script one. Rest of them are straightforward. Because of the way these columns are named, what Power Pivot is now trying to do is it's trying to detect relationships, and it kind of mangles up all these relationships. If you go to the relationship view within Power BI, you notice that although script is placed in the middle, it's the ID column that has been linked, and that's wrong. So I'm going to just delete all these relationships and create them by manually telling Power Pivot how to deal with this. So we'll take the episode ID, and let me just expand this table. Um, and this ID is episode ID. Likewise, this is character ID, and that's the location ID. So now we have linked. If you hover on the lines, you can see what it is, what it has been linked to. We'll do one more thing. We go to episodes, and in the episodes we also have a couple of URLs. This is image URL for the episode, so I'm going to use the modeling data category and then tell that that's an image URL. Likewise, I'm going to use the video URL aspect to say that this is a web URL. This way, whenever we use those columns in Power BI visualizations, they will be treated as URLs, and for image URLs, Power BI tries to hook up to web and bring that image and show that in the model. Alright, so now all of this is done. Let's go ahead and add a slicer on the phrase. So we will add phrases as a slicer. Initially I went with a slicer, but then what I did is I used a chiclet slicer visualization built by Microsoft. It's a custom visualization. That way you can see multiple items. Instead of seeing all of them in one column or one row, you can see them in 3 columns or 4 columns, and that would be slightly interesting. But let's work with this, and then I'll show you how the chiclet slicer works and the other things. So I'll orient this like this, and using general I'll change the orientation to horizontal, and then I'll make it responsive, and we will use the turn off the headers and go to items, and let's just set up some interesting background and change the font. All of these are not necessary, but kind of makes it fun, and make it slightly large. So there is our selection slicer. You can pick any one of them, and that's being selected. Now let's write a measure to harvest what is the phrase that is being selected. I'm going to use a new measure feature. This is selected phrase. This is nothing but selected value of the phrases phrase. And in case we select multiple, let's just use DOW. So the alternative result, if nothing is selected or multiple items are selected, would be that. So we get a selected phrase. Unfortunately, I think that table was highlighted, so it was added to that. I'm going to edit this and then say move this measure into the phrases as the home table. It doesn't really matter where the measure is attached, it will still give the same result, but that's the thing. Now let's go ahead and bring an image of Homer saying something. I have downloaded this. It's a clip art kind of thing where Homer is saying "Dog." Now what I want to do is I want to replace that with whatever is selected. So let's go ahead and add a card visualization on the selected phrase. So this is part or beer or donut, right? Whatever you select, that's what it shows up there. It's a card visualization. And then I'll turn off the category label. I'll go to the data label. Let's make it maybe 14 points, and then change the font to Comic Sans. All right. So, and then what I'll also do is I'll apply some background color on it. Let me just show you with a different color. So we'll apply the background color and resize it there, and then I'll just move it on top of that label. Now usually all the background colors you apply in Power BI would have a transparency. So here it is 50% transparent. I'll make it 0% transparent, so it kind of overlaps that image. So I'll just resize it, and kind of we need to just be a little careful and move it around until it fits into that bubble. And now if you select something, whatever you select, that will show up there. If you select something too big to fit, then it would kind of show a few dots. Now if you change that background color into white, then it would simply blend in and it looks like Homer's image is saying those words. That kind of creates a cool illusion there. Alright, now that Homer is saying something, let's go ahead and see how many times he said that in any episode. So for that, we'll go into the script and let's add a few measures here. The first one is dialogue count, and this is nothing but how many dialogues are there, and this is nothing but your good old count rows of script table, right? How many rows are there in the script table, and that'll be telling us how many dialogues are there. And next, what we want to do is we want to see how many of the dialogues have that particular word, right? So this is where we will insert a measure called as phrase count, and this is going to be so we want to understand how many times a particular phrase is said. We can use one of the formulas. So the formula that I'm going to use is essentially we want to, for each and every row within the script, we want to go and see, hey, does this row contain whatever word has been selected phrase. So unfortunately there is no contain kind of thing. You could use either search or find. So we will use search function and to find a text within the text. The text that we want to find is selected phrase, and this would be in the script table. Now it is not showing me all the things because we are not writing it correctly. In the script table, it would be in the normalize text field, right? So we want to understand whether this is there within that thing, right? So for that, what I will do is I'll first, and we have to iterate this, we have to check this for each and every row. This is not the most efficient way, but I couldn't really figure out another option fairly quickly. So we want to use the sumx function. Go to script table, for each and every row run this thing, search, find text, that is my selected phrase, within text script, normalize the text, start at 1, and if it is not found, give me 0 as the answer. Now what search does is it finds the answer. If it finds this at the 5th character, then it will give me 5. We don't want to add 5, 7 like that. We want to add 1 or 0. 0 in case it is not found, and 1 if it is found. So what we could do is we could apply a greater than 0 here. This would kind of turn this into a boolean thing where it becomes true or false. But unfortunately sumx would expect an expression that returns a number rather than a boolean value. So I'll wrap this whole thing in if that thing is found, then give me 1, else give me 0, and that should be the phrase count. Now let's go ahead and test this by adding a table, and in this table I want to show how many times each and every character said that. So I'll pick the character's name and then phrase count, right? So this is going to take a while because there are heaps of characters. It'll kind of show, for example, there is 10 years younger Homer and he said that 0 times. We don't need to know that. We will sort this, and again there are hundreds of characters within Simpsons, so this is kind of running through all of them. We don't need to see all of these people, we just need to see the top people, right? So I'm going to go to our name and apply a filtering here. Instead of basic filtering, we'll use the top end filtering. Show me the top, let's say 10 names by the phrase count, right? And we apply the filter. Probably because phrase count is also an expensive measure, I'll try to use the dialogue count, most popular characters, and how many times they said that, so we could see this thing. Now let's go ahead and make this table a little fancy by using flashy row style, and then I'll apply grid formatting with text size of about 12 points, so you could actually read everything, or 14 points. So there is that, and you can go ahead and set up some font formatting, etc. Let's turn off the totals, we don't need to see that there. So these are the names, and that many times how that's how they many times they said this is blank because apparently there is a blank character. I don't know, maybe it's TV blaring or something else that is adding script lines. And now we can see with this is what it looks like. Alright, so this is that, and we can go ahead and add few more things here. For example, we can see how many dialogues are spoken by each and every character. What I have done in the original dashboard is I have also counted how many appearances they had, and then added that as a font color scale on the right hand side. So people who appeared in many episodes, they will look in a darker color of purple, versus people who appeared in one of episodes but said that thing so many times, they would appear uh, in lighter shade of purple. So that's that table. Let's go ahead and see which episodes are famous for that thing. So I'm going to add one more table. This time we'll bring the episode title, and then episode image URL, and again we will apply a top and filtering on this one as well, because we don't need to see all the episodes, we just want to see the top 5 episodes by the phrase count. And this would kind of reduce the number of items shown here. We'll do a bit of formatting for that by applying flashy rose formatting again, and setting the font size to 12 points, so that you could kind of see. If you see multiple episodes, although we said 5, if there are multiple, that's probably because a particular phrase is spoken several times in one episode and then not many times in others, so there's a tie for the 5th episode, and that's probably why there are so many more here. But as you alter this, you might see fewer. I can't really find any option to limit the number of rows to only 5 irrespective of ties. There is, I don't think there is any such option. It will show ties as multiple rows at the bottom. That's the way top and filtering is set up. So that is how this thing is set up, because this is an image URL, and we have told Power BI that this particular column contains an image URL. It is fetching that image from whichever website is hosting. I think it is staticmediafxx.com, Fox Networks, and it is bringing that image and showing that in our report. You can also bring the video URL. I think that would only work if you have some sort of mechanism to actually watch this video, and it shows up like this. But if you go to one of the things where there is a URL icon option in the values option for the table, and we can just turn it on, and that'll just show up as a link icon, and when you click, you will be able to go into simpsonsworld.com with that particular episode ID link, and hopefully you can catch a glimpse of that episode, or at least see a little bit of that. So that's that. What I have also done in the other report is I have added a location heat map to see where that particular dialogue is spoken, and then I have added some bits of formatting by adding titles and kind of annotating everything, so you know what the dialogue is and how many times it is spoken, etc. What I have also done is I have created another measure that tells me how many times in all that measure has been spoken in all the episodes, and how many times it was said by Homer himself, and that shows up as a text. So let me just switch back to the original report. This is how it looks like. Let's collapse this so there's more screen space for this. And as you pick anything, this is the chiclet slicer, by the way. This is more fancy, and it kind of allows us to see multiple slicer items in one screen. As you select something, that shows up here, and then there is a generic text here that is driven by a measure. It says you heard it 2370 times. I said it 450 times. And who says that? These are the characters who are saying that, sorted by their phrase count, and these are the episodes in which that particular phrase has been said most often, their ratings and links and how many times it is said, and a little bit of image. The rating is using a feature from the quick measure. Using quick measure, you can create a star rating on any measure by saying, 0 means 0 stars and 10 means 5 stars, and then it will write a measure that will give us that by using the Unicode characters and whatnot. And that's a location heat map. I toyed with the idea of grouping this, but I couldn't really come up with a reasonable grouping mechanism, so that's why it kind of looks like a big tapestry there. But there you go. I think this is a pretty cool dashboard, and well, not a dashboard, but a cool visual way to explore Simpson episodes and understand how many times each of those phrases have been said. You can go ahead and um, edit the table by using the edit queries option and selecting the phrases and clicking on the gray gear icon of the phrases source, and you can pretty much type anything else and see how many times Homer says that, bird or chicken or something like that. When you do this, it'll add that value to the table, and when you close and apply, this will go ahead and kind of add that to a chiclet slicer here, and that will be an option when you select bird, and you can see that has been set 225 times. So there you go. I hope you find this interesting and you'll use these ideas in some of the reporting or fun explorations of data. I highly recommend Kaggle.com for downloading data sets that are fairly interesting and varied, and using it as a source to learn more about data analysis through Power BI, Excel, or R, or Python, or whatever you have. So thank you so much for watching this video, and talk to you soon. Bye bye. Well, time for me to say duh. That's because remember when we were looking at how many times Homer said duh, there were only 38 times, and this seemed a little too low for such a popular saying. So I kept thinking, what is going on here? And then after the previous recording, I went online to do a bit of research on why it was said lower times, and there was obviously someone who did this analysis times Homer says duh, and then they also found the same, that only 12 lines containing duh seems a little low. Time for some checks. And turns out when the script writers were writing this, they would usually write this as annoyed grunt. So in the script it would simply be annoyed grunt as a parenthesized thing, and then when Matt Groening, I guess, who's the one who gave the dubbing for Homer's voice, I could be wrong here, would simply replace that with duh, because that's what annoyed grunt stands for. So we had to do the same analysis by replacing annoyed grunts in original text, raw text, with duh in the normalized text. So that's exactly what I did. I went to our edit queries, and I have added few more columns, well, just an extra column called normalized text 2, using this conditional column thingy in Power Query. It's basically if raw text contains within parentheses annoyed grunt, it should be in capitals because that's how it is in the raw text, then output should be duh, otherwise it should be same as normalized text. And then I just renamed that column. I should have done that earlier, but that's the next step, and I call this as normalized underscore text 2. And now that it is there, we can go ahead and change our phrase count thing, where we are looking in the script under normalized underscore text. We just look in the second column. This should probably fix that thing for us and show 409 times. Let's see, way better. obviously it is Homer's favorite saying, so he said it 327 times. So that looks better, and yep, duh indeed. So thank you so much, and see you again.